Good morning from beautiful Pell City, Alabama, here in my driveway. I am getting ready to go on a 4-hour guide trip, and I figured why not record it. I'm actually going with a high school angler that I've never fished before, but I know he fishes a lot, so I figure I'm not really sure if he's going to want to just have the GoPro running all day and do a video, but I'm planning on asking him. So I guess I'll find out when I get to the ramp and meet him. His name, I believe, is Brady McCormick. And he's ready to go fishing. I know that. He's been fishing all week for spring break. And there's a lot of stuff going on right now with the fish. I mean, we do have a warming trend coming, or we're in the middle of a warming trend. And then the full moon is coming in the next like 5 days. So there's a lot of fish starting to show up on bed down here in Alabama. And there's still some fish out deep though, and suspended fish. And it's really weird how many fish I'm realizing just float around in the middle of nowhere year round. But that's just part of the learning curve and the new technology we have, being able to learn that kind of stuff. But I want to go catch spawners. I want to go catch spotted bass spawning, maybe some largemouth spawning. I want to go catch them on a topwater if we can. The topwater bite's been hit or miss lately, but we're going to give that a try too. So I guess we'll just see how it goes.
You know, I absolutely love catching fish on topwater. I love throwing the 6 cents dogma and the splashback popper. But this year has not been a great topwater year for some reason. Now, I can't really explain why that is, and maybe I just haven't been on them, but typically if I try a pattern on a place or two on Logan Martin, if it's going to happen, I can duplicate it, and I know it's going to happen pretty quick, so I don't get stuck on any one pattern. And so after trying the topwater out, I could just tell it wasn't happening, and so I wanted to see, since we only had 4 hours on this morning, if we could get on some spawning fish quickly. Some fish going down the bank, throwing the Ned Rig, and then also the Shaky Head. So I knew right away it was time to go try it out, just to see if the morning spawn bite was happening for spotted bass, and it was right away. It started clicking.
Oh, I'm not lefty.
Yeah, we'll swap it for you after this one. You're doing good though. Now we're going to see if he's got red eyes and his peeing. If he's red-eyed and peeing, we'll know what's going on. Oh yeah. Not a bad one. For the next month, really, you'll be able to go down Main Lake banks, and the farther into the month we get, a little bit farther along in the spawn, they'll get. And normally I'll go up the river and fish rocky banks and bluff banks and seawalls and stuff like that. It's a nice one. We'll take him. Is he peeing at all? Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's so awesome to figure out the fish quickly, and we knew right away that they were spawning. I could tell, and we also learned right away that Andrew, the younger brother, was an incredible worm fisherman. He's really good at working the worm along and feeling every rock and giving the worm a long time to settle. Especially when the fish are spawning and you're fishing a worm, you want to let that worm settle, and that's how you're going to catch a bunch of fish. Now, we were all throwing spinning rods with the Ned Rig and the Shaky Head, and you can see Andrew right here is using the TFO Resolve catching this fish. And that Resolve is the 7.3 Medium Light Plus, which is an amazing rod. It's got the perfect balance, perfect backbone, perfect tip, and is just an awesome rod for catching fish on a Ned Rig, a Shaky Head, or the Nedmiki, like I throw a lot. Sometimes with the Nedmiki, I'll throw the 7.6 Medium Light for making long casts in open water. But, I mean, that 7.3 Medium Light Plus is just incredible. And again, that's the TFO Resolve.
He was fighting all weird.
Just take your time with it.
Why is he fighting so weird? He looked like he was like, his head like a drum. He's a red-eye too.
I'm always looking for any little clue from nature, and one big thing about springtime fishing and understanding what stage the fish you're catching are in and duplicating that pattern perfectly is little signs from the fish. So I could see that these fish were red-eyed and peeing, and that is what you look for in the spring. Red-eyed peers mean they're spawning, and it's just a fact with fish. And it's the same with largemouth, spots, and smallmouth. If you have fish that have red eyes and are peeing, you know that they're on bed in that particular section of the lake and on that pattern you're running. So it's a great thing to understand so you can go duplicate it. And Brady had to get a little bit back on his brother, but again, Andrew doesn't stay down long, and he started catching more fish from the back of the boat.
Oh, I think so.
Oh, yeah. Get him. What do you do about that?
So what we had going on was a battle between Andrew in the back of the boat throwing the SMH jig head that Brian Latimer designed for Z-Man and the 1/8 ounce and the 3/16 ounce with the big TRD on it. And then in the front, you had Brady throwing a 1/6 ounce Nedlocks jig head with the Finesse TRD instead of the big TRD on it. They were both throwing Canada Croc color, which is one of my favorite elastic colors. And it was just, you know, bam, 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 fish after fish. And then you had me in the front of the boat trying to catch suspended fish. And I was doing that because I obviously didn't want to pluck the fish off the bank and whoop up on my two buddies. No, I'm just kidding. They're good fishermen. But I was trying to see if there was any floating fish just out on the main lake, which is something that I never used to look for. But I was Nedmiki and them out off the bank. And then sometimes I would throw that Nedmiki up there to try to pluck a spawner. And I kind of needed to get on the board at this point.
Oh, God. So that's a... got eggs leaking out. Yeah. Post spawner.
It's crazy to, you know, catch a fish like that out in the middle of nowhere, just roaming around, and it to be a post spawner. I mean, it was clear and obvious. Post spawn fish had eggs leaking out, and a female that had already been up there on the bank laid her eggs and had left, and the male was left on the bank somewhere. And that was really cool to see, and it's just fun to throw at floating fish and tease them into biting, no matter what time of year it is. So right here, Andrew actually gets hung up, and I pop the bait off the rock, and a fish eats it immediately. And I figured, you know what, I only got one bass. I'm going to catch this one, and Andrew's catching plenty. So I kind of stole Andrew's bass here, and he wasn't too mad at me, but it was pretty dang funny.
I'm a fish stealer.
So there were several little keys to this pattern, and there's a lot of places spots spawn, but spots love spawning on anything that's hard, such as rocks or wood or anything like that, and they like to spawn next to something that's a little bit different. So if there's a pole in the water, a back pole of a dock, one boulder that's a little bit bigger than the rest, a boat ramp, all those kind of targets were what we were keying in on, and you can call your shot just about when they're in this stage. Now when they're spawning, I try to catch them and get them back in the water quickly, even if it's a little bitty spotted bass. That thing's still up there guarding the nest. It's guarding the babies, and I want to see Logan Martin flourish in the future, so I try to get them back in the water really quick when I'm smacking them on a spawning pattern.
Wow, we need a triple. Come on.
Got it. I don't know about that now. Got it.
Come on.
So the pressure was on for Andrew to get us a triple, and unfortunately he had a bite, but the fish dropped it really quick, which they do sometimes when they're moving your bait off a bed, and we did not complete the triple. But doubling up is always fun, even if they're not huge fish. It's just a blast catching two fish at a time with a new buddy. So at this point, we had caught a lot of fish down the bank, and the boys were pretty even. Andrew had a few up on his brother Brady, but that's what happens when you're the best worm fisherman in the universe, which Andrew clearly is. And they wanted to see if we could go try to get a big largemouth bite. So we ran into a shallow pocket where I hoped some largemouth would be spawning, and it didn't take long to get the bite we were looking for.
That was a good one.
Unfortunately, as you can see, the good one got away, and that's just part of fishing. You know, I do throw my Ned Rigs weedless. I throw it like a little miniature shaky head, just kind of Texas rigged on that Ned Locks hook. And so you got to stick them a little bit harder than when you're throwing an exposed hook. So that's just something to remember when you're throwing the weedless Texas Ned, as I like to call it. We fished some more of that pocket, but there was already several boats in there, and we didn't get any more bites on the stretch that we fished, so I wanted to go with our last half hour to another main river bank. And so that's what we did. We went out there to see if we could finish strong and catch a few more fish.
Pulled the drag out, I tried to boat.
That's what I'm talking about. Why did you get that, Brady? Trip it up, Brady. Hey. Nice one. Take a picture.
You know, this fish right here was actually pretty cool. What I did is I skipped the Zman Nedmiki, I call it, the Streaks 375 on the finesse size jig head up under a dock. And this is a bait that most people don't think of it for this, but it's actually a really good spawning bait. If you're fishing it around places that you're not going to get hung a whole bunch, it works great for spots. But I've sight fished with the Nedmiki too. Just for the fun of it, we decided that next fish was going to win. And it was, you know, a pretty tight match between Brady and Andrew. I didn't really get as many of Brady's fish catches. But when I made the claim that last fish or the next fish was going to win, I had a feeling Andrew was going to be intense and crack down like he normally does.
Give me that.
God, you get big?
I don't think so. Oh! I just had to land him before you did. Let's go.
Where were they supposed to be?
Andrew, how's it feel to be the champ?
Good, you know. Caught more than most, so.
He's the championship worm angler. He's good at it. They're spawning down the bank, which is fun. So this is Brady, this is Andrew, and I know we didn't have a whole lot of audio on that, but these guys are good fishermen. So go to Briarwood. You go to Briarwood too?
Sure.
Yeah, cool. They are going to be some good up and coming guys. I was catching the suspended fish, which was cool, out in the middle of nowhere, which is crazy because you're fishing down the main river bank and there's still suspenders, but they were just dinging them up on the worm, picking their shots on the inside poles and on the little rocks that are right out off the seawalls, catching a bunch of spots. That was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we had one big fish. This guy right here. Let her jump off.
Jumped off.
It's because that tiny little Ned Rig hook. Just kidding. Thanks for watching.